Hey guys, tonight we're going to slow everything down. Not just your breath or your thoughts, but the entire rhythm you've been living in. This is about moving gently, like mist over a quiet lake. About stepping away from the speed that modern life demands and remembering something older, softer, your own pace. You've probably spent the day chasing tasks, reacting to messages, adjusting to the moods of others. Maybe you even rushed here, hoping this would help you sleep. But here's a gentle reminder. You will never control the world, but you can always learn to govern yourself. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from tonight and what time it is for you. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie down and the world doesn't follow. That's the first gift of slowness, separation. A small space between your body and the storm of life. A creaking door that closes behind you just gently enough that nothing gets slammed. In this hour, nothing chases you. There is no deadline, no obligation. Even your own thoughts begin to tread more carefully, like they're walking on stone in a sacred place. This still hour isn't emptiness, it's recovery. It's the moment after the thunder when the rain is soft and steady and you can finally hear yourself breathe. And in that breath, you might notice something strange. The world has been moving fast, but you don't have to. The Stoics taught that peace comes not from controlling events, but from how we relate to them. What if tonight you chose not to relate through speed but through stillness? You don't rush toward truth. You settle into it. Some people imagine stillness as passive, weak, but try standing still in a world that never stops sprinting. Try holding your ground while everything around you begs you to move, to react, to answer. There's a kind of courage in that pause, a stubborn, deliberate kind of strength. You might remember a day, not long ago, when you acted out of impulse. You were tired or overwhelmed or simply swept up in someone else's chaos. And the faster you moved, the more your thoughts tangled, your choices narrowed, your words sharpened, and suddenly you were someone you didn't mean to be. That's the trap of speed. It closes in, like a hallway getting narrower the faster you run. But when you stop, even just for a breath, space returns. Possibility returns. You get to choose again. Think of Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor. History remembers him with a kind of soft gravity. He commanded armies, ruled a vast empire, and yet he wrote to himself like a quiet student, especially during times of illness. Picture him, weakened by fever, body failing but mind steady. He picks up his stylus. His thoughts are clear not in spite of the slowness, but because of it. You could leave life right now, he tells himself. Let that determine what you do and say and think. It isn't a morbid thought, it's a compass. So you lie there now, not in defeat but in deliberate pause. Let the body rest. Let the thoughts loosen. Let the need to finish, to prove, to fix, gently fall off you like a heavy coat. Because maybe you don't need to carry so much to be whole. Let's laugh just briefly at how absurd it is. We rush to be efficient, then spend our free time trying to calm down from the rushing, as if peace is just another task to complete. The irony is rich and human. Tonight, you're not completing anything. You're practicing a deeper kind of trust. The trust that says, this moment is enough. That your worth isn't measured in productivity or cleverness or speed. That simply lying here with yourself is an act of quiet rebellion in a world obsessed with motion. And in that rebellion, a question. What if slowness isn't the opposite of power but the source of it? There's a Japanese word, ma. It means the space between things. The silence between notes that gives the music shape. You are entering your ma right now, the space that holds your life together. The still hour that doesn't ask anything of you except that you arrive. As your breath slows, as the tightness in your jaw begins to ease, as your fingers uncurl, know this. Nothing important is being missed. What matters most waits for you patiently. The rest will forget you quickly. Tomorrow will come. So will emails, so will opinions, but not now. Now you're stepping outside the river, watching it from the shore. feeling the wet sand under your feet cool and grounding. And in that silence you might notice, you are more than the currents that carry you. You are not your urgency. You are not your inbox. You are not your schedule. You are the one who chooses when to engage and when to rest. So rest, friend, breathe, linger. The hour belongs to you again. You're lying there and something stirs, not in the outside world but inside your awareness. It begins with a ripple, a small one, maybe a memory or a face or just a sentence you heard earlier today that won't quite let go. You could react to it. You usually would. A flare of annoyance, a silent comeback, the mental rehearsal of things you wish you'd said. But instead, you pause. This is what the Stoics called the first impression, the fantasia prakatarchdike, the automatic thought, the knee-jerk flash that appears before you've even had time to summon logic or reflection. It's like a pebble hitting the surface of your mind. The ripple starts. But here's the part most people forget. You don't have to become the wave. The Stoic Epictetus taught that the first impression isn't the problem. It's what happens next. Do you believe it without question? Do you chase it down with more energy than it deserves? Or do you watch it ripple, acknowledge it, and let it pass? Tonight, you choose the third path. Earlier today, someone said something unkind. Not cruel, just sharp. A joke with a barb in it. A tone that scratched more than it soothed. Normally, you'd react, even if only in your mind. But tonight, you revisit that moment, not to refight it, but to understand your own power within it. You slow the memory down, you see their lips move, hear their voice. And then you feel the space. That tiny, precious gap between stimulus and response, it's there. You missed it at the time, but now you see it clearly. That pause, that's yours. That's where your freedom lives, because in that pause you don't have to match their energy. You don't have to make it worse. You don't have to hand over your peace. You can observe the ripple and stay still. There's something quietly thrilling about not reacting, about realizing that you don't owe the world your immediacy. You can be deliberate, gentle, unmoved in the best way. That's not weakness. It's emotional aikido. Imagine a tree in wind. The wind blows hard, but the tree doesn't fight it. It bends, it moves, but it doesn't break and it doesn't chase the wind either. It stands. That could be you. It reminds you of a time in history, not dramatic, not famous, just quietly telling. A Roman soldier returns to his outpost after receiving orders that anger him. He feels betrayed by his commander. The instinct to speak out, to rebel, is strong. But instead, he walks alone into the dark, sits by a fire and writes in his journal. He slows himself down, not because he's afraid, but because he knows fast feelings can be liars. The next morning he sees more clearly, and he never sends the letter he'd almost written. You're not that soldier, but you've been close. You've stood in your own firelight with your own stormy thoughts, and now you begin to recognize delay isn't avoidance, it's refinement. There's a soft kind of strength in waiting before you speak, in breathing before you judge, in letting the ripple move without jumping into it. And still, there's the pull. The modern world trains us to respond fast. Notifications, comments, alarms. We're conditioned to act before we've even thought. But ask yourself, how often has that led to something you truly meant? You smile a little at the irony. Slowing down isn't lazy, it's loving. It's how you give your best self time to catch up to your first reaction. Here's the twist. Most people don't even know they have that choice. They think the wave is them, but you're learning. You're remembering what the Stoics already knew. The mind is not a machine. It's a garden, and gardens don't bloom when rushed. A quiet paradox emerges. The more slowly you respond, the more deeply you feel your strength. You don't have to raise your voice to be heard. You don't have to move quickly to make progress. You don't have to clap back to prove anything. In fact, every time you resist the urge to rush, you are declaring something vital. I am not owned by this moment. I am choosing how to meet it. You breathe, deeper now. The ripple has passed. The water of your mind stills again. And in that stillness, another insight glows like a lantern just lit. The world may keep spinning. People will still provoke. But if you can master this one ability, the power to pause, you're already freer than most. There's a kind of quiet rebellion in this. In a culture obsessed with speed, you become the one who moves like time itself, calm, steady, and beyond panic. Let that sink in as you lie there. Let it seep into your breath, your spine, your palms. This is what mastery looks like, not control over others but composure within yourself. You're not the ripple anymore. You're the ocean. You think back to a time when you did nothing, and it turned out to be everything. You didn't jump in to fix it. You didn't try to win the argument. You didn't make a grand display of strength or certainty. Instead, you stayed quiet, present, open-handed, and somehow that became the turning point. It felt at first like weakness, like surrender. Your ego whispered, say something, prove your value, defend yourself. But something deeper in you, something older said, wait. And in that waiting, you discovered the truth. There's a kind of warrior who doesn't carry weapons, who doesn't rush the battlefield but watches from a place of stillness, observing what others miss in their haste. You became that warrior, not out of strategy, but instinct. This is one of the great paradoxes of Stoic thought. You gain power by releasing control. You grow stronger not by clenching tighter, but by knowing when to open your hand and let the world be what it is. The Stoics didn't teach apathy. They taught alignment. They asked, what's in your control, what's not? And once you answer that honestly, a strange kind of courage appears. The courage to do less and mean more. That day you didn't react, didn't retaliate, didn't try to manipulate an outcome, it stayed with you. You remember the feeling, not triumphant, not defeated, just steady. Like standing on solid ground while others stumbled on quicksand. You may have walked away from something that day, a confrontation, an opportunity, a need to explain yourself. And instead of shrinking, you expanded. Into peace, into space, into the quiet confidence that you are already enough. It brings to mind an old moment from Roman history. Cato the Younger, the Stoic senator, once stood silent in the Senate while chaos erupted around him. He was being accused, misrepresented, challenged. Everyone expected a rebuttal, but he remained quiet. When asked why, he simply said, "I don't answer noise." And that was it. Imagine the power of that kind of stillness. Not cold or uncaring, but grounded. Cato wasn't detached, he was focused. He knew that some battles aren't worthy of your time, that not everything said deserves a response, that sometimes the strongest stance is silence. You've tasted that wisdom, and you know it's not always easy. The temptation to explain yourself can be overwhelming, to clear your name, to correct someone's misunderstanding. But what does that ever truly give you except temporary relief and long-term fatigue? Let's be honest. Half the time, people don't even listen when you rush to defend yourself. They're too caught in their own storm. And when you slow down instead, when you step out of the storm, you offer a different energy. One that doesn't escalate but absorbs. One that doesn't fight to win but stays to understand. There's a softness in that, a grace. And yet it's not the softness of surrender. It's the softness of stone worn smooth by time, gentle to the touch but unbreakable. Tonight, you remember that version of yourself, the warrior with empty hands, the one who didn't need to prove anything, who trusted that what mattered would remain and what didn't would fall away on its own. You think about the people who may never understand you fully, the situations you'll never get to explain, and you breathe through the sadness of that. You breathe through the urge to reach for resolution. And then, gently, you let that urge fall away, like a leaf detaching from a tree at the perfect moment. There's a quiet wisdom in realizing you don't need closure from everyone. Sometimes the closure is you choosing peace over performance, choosing silence over spectacle. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care differently, more inwardly, more wisely, like a seasoned gardener who knows when to prune and when to leave a branch be. And maybe, just maybe, you've begun to see the irony. The more you try to control others, the less control you feel. But the moment you stop grasping, something inside you settles. The tightness loosens. The noise dims. That's the secret the Stoics kept teaching over and over again. Peace doesn't come when everything is perfect, it comes when you stop needing it to be. So tonight you rest. You remember your own power, not the loud kind, not the visible kind, but the kind that waits, the kind that watches, the kind that chooses not to rush into battle because it doesn't need to. Let others sprint. Let them swing and shout. You found another way. And as you lie there with the quiet breath of night moving around you, you realize you didn't win by doing nothing. You won by knowing that not every fight is yours to carry. And in that you are already free. There is something sacred in the ordinary if you move slowly enough to notice it. You remember this one morning. Nothing big happened. You didn't climb a mountain, write a novel, or have a revelation. You just made tea, but you didn't scroll through your phone while the water boiled. You didn't multitask. You stood there, hands still, eyes soft, feeling the rising warmth of the cup in your palms. And for a moment the world was whole. No urgency, no roles to perform, just you and the steam curling in the air like a small offering to the sky. That's the moment speed steals from you, not just productivity but presence, not just tasks but wonder. Slowness becomes your strength because it gives you back the invisible things. The subtle shift of light across a room, the soft exhale between words, the look someone gives you when they think you're really listening. Things the fast never see. The Stoics weren't romantic about life, but they were precise. They believed in attention as a moral act. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "People look for retreats for themselves in the country by the sea, but you have it in your own mind." He wasn't saying, ignore the world. He was saying, learn to see it differently. And when you slow down, that's exactly what happens. You see more but need less. You expect less but understand more. You notice how quickly others speak just to avoid silence. How the days blur when you're always running. How loneliness grows when you're surrounded by noise but deprived of meaning. There's a strange tension here. You're told to live your best life, to chase it, build it, document it. But the best moments often arrive uninvited, unnoticed by others, and utterly still. Like the moment you watched the sunlight shift across your bedsheet, or when your friend's voice cracked a little in laughter and something in you softened, or when you paused mid-sentence for no reason at all and realized you didn't need to finish proving your point. Those were the real ones, weren't they? You recall a philosopher who once taught under an olive tree, not in a grand lecture hall. His words were slow, his presence unshaken by the wind or the disinterest of a few distracted students. When asked why he didn't speak louder or faster, he replied, "Because truth does not shout, it waits to be heard." You wonder what else in your life is waiting to be heard. And you laugh, quietly, at how much time you've spent rushing toward what you already have. You've been chasing connection but forgetting to linger. You've been chasing clarity but forgetting to pause. Maybe that's why slowness feels uncomfortable at first, because it removes the illusion of progress. It strips away the performance. It leaves you naked with the moment and asks, can you be here just as you are? And here's the paradox again. The less you try to hold on to it, the more it stays. This morning, it was the tea. Tomorrow, it might be the way someone says your name, or the long breath you take before a hard decision, or the feel of your own pulse, soft and steady, reminding you that your body is still here, still trying, still enough. And yet the culture around you won't stop pressing the gas. You'll keep getting pulled into deadlines, expectations, little screens that flicker with urgent brightness. That's okay. You're not trying to escape the world. You're just choosing a different rhythm. You don't need to move faster than your own soul, and that's the gift. That's the quiet rebellion. Because when you move slowly, you move with intention. When you move slowly, you remember to look, to listen, to ask, does this matter, or is it just loud? You once heard someone say, you should be busy. But tonight, you ask a better question. Should I be rushing through a life I'm lucky to have? The truth is, you could miss the best part of your life. Not because you weren't paying attention, but because you were moving too fast to feel it. So tonight you lie here, and you do the most radical thing, nothing. You simply exist. You let the fan hum softly in the background. You let the breath pass in and out of your chest like gentle waves lapping a forgotten shore. You let the world blur at the edges and focus in on this one, precious hour where slowness isn't a problem to solve but a door to walk through. And on the other side of that door, everything you thought you had to chase was already waiting. Sometimes strength looks like writing with trembling hands. Marcus Aurelius, once the most powerful man in the world, spent his nights hunched over parchment, sick, tired, wrapped in blankets while the empire trembled under plague and pressure. He didn't write for history. He didn't write for approval. He wrote to remind himself what mattered when everything around him was falling apart. You picture him now, candlelight flickering across ink-stained fingers. His body failing, yet his mind turning inward, not frantically but firmly, slowly, one line at a time. That's the paradox, isn't it? Even when the world demanded urgency, Marcus turned to stillness, to philosophy, to honesty with himself. He was practicing what the Stoics called inner governance, the quiet mastery of one's own thoughts, feelings, and reactions, no matter how loudly life roared. You've had your own versions of that sickbed moment. No empire on your shoulders, but maybe a day when your body was weak, your plans had unraveled, and nothing seemed within your control. A time when showing up, even softly, even slowly, was the bravest thing you could do. And in those moments, something shifts. The illusion of control peels away and you meet yourself again. Not the achiever, not the thinker, just the being, the one who breathes, the one who endures. You realize it's not speed that carries you through life's hardest moments. It's steadiness, a kind of slow-burning strength, the kind that doesn't panic when the lights flicker, that doesn't reach for escape when discomfort whispers. Marcus wrote in those hours not because he had time but because he made it. Time bent around his stillness, not the other way around. He didn't need a peaceful life to find peace. He needed only one thing: clarity. And clarity, as you now know, doesn't arrive in a rush. It creeps in gently like sunlight through fog. You think about your own late-night reflections. Maybe not in a journal, maybe not in Latin, but they were there. In the form of quiet questions. Why does this matter? Who am I without this success? Without this role? And slowly answers emerged, not dramatic but steady, a kind of whisper from the inside. That's what Stoicism offers. Not escape from emotion, but a soft lantern in the dark. A reminder that even when the body is failing, even when the world is chaos, you still have the power to choose your next thought. And there's something deeply comforting about that. You don't have to fix everything tonight. You don't have to be perfect or powerful or fully healed. You just have to choose again, to lean toward calm, to lean toward truth. The ancient Stoics believed in memento mori, the contemplation of death, not as a morbid exercise, but as a way to strip life down to what matters. Marcus, weakened and coughing in his chamber, still found the energy to ask himself, if I died tomorrow, would I be proud of how I carried this day? It's a question that cuts through noise. You might ask it now, gently. If this were your last quiet moment, would you fill it with worry or with presence? Not everything in life can be fixed. Not everything can be won. But everything can be met with presence, with clarity, with the slow, grounded posture of someone who understands that rushing never made anything more sacred. And yet modern life rewards the opposite. Haste, hustle, keep moving, they say, stay busy. But look at what Marcus teaches us. The moments of greatest power are often the quietest, the least impressive, the most inward. He didn't win every battle. He didn't conquer every problem, but he remained. He stayed in his integrity. He wrote what was true even when no one else would read it. That's what you're doing tonight in your own way. You're not fleeing yourself. You're not avoiding the discomfort. You're meeting it with slowness. You're choosing to stay. And that is no small thing. You may not feel strong, but strength isn't always loud. It's often the act of not giving up on gentleness, even when the world pushes you to harden. It's the decision to return to yourself, even when that self feels lost or tired. So you lie here, not to escape life, but to feel it more fully. To remember that you are not just what you produce or prove or protect. You are also what you observe, what you allow, what you forgive. Like Marcus with his ink and fever and fading breath, you find your still hour, and you say to yourself quietly, slowly, this is enough. I am enough. Even here I can choose peace. You remember walking away, not in anger, not in fear, but in something quieter. It was during a conversation that had turned heated, not yelling, just sharp edges. You felt it building, the need to say one more thing, to correct, to win. But instead you chose something else, to step back, to breathe, to not engage. And even now you can feel the power of that moment, not the kind that draws applause, but the kind that leaves no bruises. You didn't retreat. You refused to be pulled in. This is the strength of slowness. It's the strength to choose what enters your mind and what doesn't. Because the truth is, most of what is flung at you isn't worthy of staying. The Stoics believe that your mind is like a citadel, an inner fortress, not one built from walls but from intention, from awareness, from boundaries, and the gatekeeper is you. Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. He didn't mean you should blame yourself. He meant you should reclaim your power. Because every time you let someone pull you into their chaos, you hand over a piece of your peace. But not that day. That day you walked away. You turned the world's volume down, and in the quiet that followed, something inside you settled. This wasn't weakness. This was sovereignty. You were practicing a kind of inner minimalism, mental asceticism, not depriving yourself but protecting yourself from noise, from drama, from the endless swirl of emotion that isn't yours to hold. You've seen it before in the world around you. People addicted to reaction, social media debates that go nowhere, conversations that escalate not because the topic matters, but because no one wants to be the first to stop. Everyone wants the last word. But you don't need the last word. You need the right relationship with your mind. There's a subtle moment in history that captures this. A Stoic philosopher named Musonius Rufus, teacher of Epictetus, was known to pause mid-sentence when he felt himself getting agitated. Not because he forgot his point, but because he realized, if my words don't come from calm, they're not worth finishing. Can you imagine that level of mastery? To stop, not because someone else silenced you, but because you honored your own threshold. That's the power you reached for that day when you walked away. Not to win, but to preserve something. Something sacred, your clarity. And yet, we're not taught this. We're taught that walking away is weakness. That engagement is strength. That silence is defeat. But you're starting to see through that. You're learning that not everything loud is strong, and not everything quiet is fragile. Sometimes the greatest discipline is restraint. And here's the gentle paradox. When you turn down the world's volume, you start to hear what's always been true. Your own voice, your own values, your own clarity cutting through the noise like a thread of gold. You begin to notice how often people speak from pain they haven't examined. How much of the noise isn't personal, it's projection. When you slow down, you stop confusing reaction with relevance. And that changes everything. You lie here tonight remembering that choice. That moment when you didn't defend yourself, when you didn't reply with sarcasm, when you didn't pick up the anger tossed at you like a hot coal, you just let it drop. You chose stillness. And something else happened in that moment. You created space. Not just between you and the conflict, but within yourself. Space for something kinder to grow, perspective, compassion, maybe even forgiveness. Let others measure strength by volume. You'll measure it by peace. And maybe you smile now softly because you know how tempting it still is. The quick reply, the biting comeback, the need to feel heard. You're not above it. You're just learning to move with that urge, not from it. You are not a flame waiting to be sparked. You are the hearth itself, warm, contained, grounded. So let the world talk. Let it try to bait you. You've built something deeper. A silence that doesn't shrink but shelters. And in this moment you return to that silence. You feel it rise up in you like a gentle tide, washing over the places that used to flinch, used to tense, used to need to prove. No longer. Tonight you don't walk away in defeat. You walk away in peace. You remember letting someone win. Not because they were right, not because you were weak, but because you saw with unusual clarity that nothing essential was at stake. Not your peace, not your purpose, not your dignity. You let it pass. And in doing so, you discovered something you hadn't expected, a strange kind of freedom. At first, it was uncomfortable. Like surrendering a shield you'd grown used to carrying. You could have pushed back, could have corrected them, could have proven your point. But something in you whispered, what would that truly give you? The Stoics taught this long ago. Does it concern what is within your power or what is not? And in that moment you knew, the outcome of the argument, their opinion, their approval, none of it was truly yours to command. So you chose not to chase it. You stepped out of the storm before it began. And like a sudden shift in the weather, your inner world quieted. That's when you realized, letting go doesn't mean losing. It means you no longer need the illusion of victory to feel whole. There's a story of Epictetus, born a slave, crippled in body but free in mind. One day his master twisted his leg. Epictetus warned him calmly, if you continue, you'll break it. The master didn't stop. A crack, pain, stillness. Epictetus didn't scream. He looked up and said softly, I told you it would break. No drama, no demand for pity, just calm, observational truth. That kind of inner detachment wasn't cold, it was sovereign. He had nothing left to prove because his dignity didn't depend on others behaving well. It lived entirely in his own response. You're not Epictetus, but in that moment when you let the other person win, something similar happened. You stepped into sovereignty. And of course, your ego didn't like it. Ego never does. It feeds on righteousness, precision, applause. But your soul felt light. As if by not taking the bait, you reclaimed something far more valuable than pride. You reclaimed space. You saw the moment for what it was, small, fleeting, not worth the emotional investment. And in choosing not to fight, you kept your emotional energy for something that mattered more. Maybe that evening, maybe your rest, maybe the simple joy of a mind that wasn't dragging around someone else's chaos. You laugh gently now, remembering how you used to equate silence with powerlessness, as if speaking louder always meant being stronger. But you've grown wiser. You've learned that many battles are waged out of insecurity, and many victories leave you emptier than you began. So you began asking better questions. Not, how can I win this? But, what does winning cost me? Not, will they see my side? But, do I even need them to? Not, what's the perfect reply? But, what kind of peace do I want to carry into the rest of my day? And sometimes, maybe more often now, the answer is, I want quiet. I want to feel soft inside my own chest. I want to look at my reflection and not see strain. I want to lie down at night without rehearsing counterarguments in my head. I want to choose stillness, not just as a technique, but as a lifestyle. Letting someone win doesn't mean giving up. It means stepping out of the game entirely. Choosing a different arena altogether. One where the prize isn't being right, it's being free. And this freedom, it isn't flashy. It won't be celebrated. There's no trophy, no applause, only a slow, steady return to yourself. That's why slowness becomes your strength. Because when you stop chasing victory in every moment, you begin to walk lighter, to smile more, to listen better, to see more clearly. Let them win. Let them misunderstand. Let the moment pass. You're not here to be the loudest. You're here to be the most whole, and maybe, just maybe, that's what real victory is. So tonight you lie here, not vindicated, not praised, but whole, steady, undisturbed. The battle passed you by, and you didn't lose, you chose not to fight. You wake up late. At first, there's that familiar flicker of guilt. The mind reaches for the clock, scrambles to calculate how far behind you are. The world, after all, doesn't pause for your fatigue. But something's different this time. You don't jump up. You don't panic. You lie there a moment longer, listening to the birds outside, to the breath in your chest, to the quiet truth beneath the noise. Nothing collapsed. The day moved on without you, and it's okay. You sit up slowly. Sunlight spills across the floor like a welcome you didn't earn but received anyway. And in that warmth, you feel it again, the strange power of not rushing. In the Stoic sense, time isn't your master, it's your medium. It's not a tyrant cracking a whip, it's a flowing river you learn to step into mindfully, or not at all. Seneca once said, "People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful." And what is the greatest waste? Not sleeping in, but living too fast to be present. You remember mornings when you woke up on time, but immediately felt behind. Rushing through your routine, checking your phone before brushing your teeth, filling your head with obligations before your body had fully returned from sleep. You were there, but not really. The day swept you up before you even had a chance to arrive. But not today. Today you arrive slowly. There's no prize for rushing. No invisible judge counting how many minutes you save by skipping breakfast or multitasking in the shower. No secret reward for being ahead of schedule if your spirit's dragging behind. What slowness teaches you, what this lazy morning reveals, is that being in rhythm with yourself matters more than being on time for the world. You move through the morning like it's a ceremony, folding blankets, washing your face, drinking water like it means something. No soundtrack, no notifications, just life unedited. And in that stillness a thought blooms. How often have I let the clock shape my value? You've felt it before. The guilt of resting, the discomfort of taking a day off, the strange pressure to catch up even when there's no race. It's a symptom of a world that's forgotten how to just be. But here, in this moment, slow, unhurried, honest, you reclaim something the fast world can't offer: alignment. You're not trying to beat the day anymore. You're walking beside it. That's what slowness gives you. Not laziness, not stagnation, but permission to live at your own pace. There's a moment from Marcus Aurelius that echoes in your thoughts. One morning, exhausted from war and sickness, he looked at the sunrise and simply wrote, "You are not compelled to rise with haste." Not compelled, not pressured, just reminded you may begin again gently. That's the heart of it. Slowness lets you begin again. You don't have to carry yesterday's tension. You don't have to race into today's demands. You can wake up late and still move with integrity, with presence, with attention. And perhaps that's the greater discipline. Not the 5 a.m. wake-up, not the checklist, but the ability to choose stillness even when everything else tells you to sprint. You smile at that, not because you're against discipline, but because you're learning to separate discipline from anxiety. One roots you, the other drives you. Today, you choose the former. There will still be things to do, people to meet, words to say. But you'll enter all of it from a place of groundedness, of calm, of having lived your morning instead of rushed through it. That's the quiet revolution, refusing to treat your life like a series of appointments. Because life doesn't begin when your to-do list ends. It begins right now, as you sip your coffee slowly, as you tie your shoes without haste, as you step into the day with a spine that doesn't bend to time, but dances with it. You woke up late and everything still held. Maybe, just maybe, the day has been waiting for you. You stand at a crosswalk. The signal is red, no cars in sight. You could cross, you almost do. But then you pause, not out of fear, not even out of habit. Just to pause, to watch the light change, to not move because you can. It's a small decision, insignificant to anyone else, but you feel something stir. You are no longer ruled by momentum. This is the beauty of slowness. It brings intention back into the smallest corners of your life, the places no one sees, the seconds that once slipped by unnoticed. You breathe, feet planted. A stranger rushes past, crossing anyway, glancing at you like you missed your chance. But you didn't miss anything. You chose presence. The Stoics spoke often of proherses, your ability to choose your attitude, your response, your direction. It's the one domain that remains untouched by circumstance. It's not about what you do, but how you do it. Not action, but intention. And today, your intention is simple: to move slowly enough to actually notice you're alive. A thought arises, one of those ones that tries to disguise itself as urgency. You're falling behind. Behind what? Who drew the finish line? Who's holding the stopwatch? You smile, because you know the truth now. Most of the pressure you feel isn't real. It's inherited, imagined. a relic of comparison. And here you are still at a crosswalk, letting the world pass by for just a moment longer. And strangely, it feels like you are the one moving forward, because you're the only one who knows where you're going. You remember another Stoic image, a ship at sea. Life is the ocean. Storms come, winds shift. But the Stoic, the one who holds the helm with awareness, doesn't panic. They don't fight the wind, they adjust the sail. That's you now, no longer flinching at the gusts, no longer trying to outrun the weather, just adjusting. There's a kind of power in that. Quiet, undeniable. You begin to see it everywhere, this subtle discipline of slowness. In the way you walk down the stairs without rushing. In the way you listen to someone without preparing your reply. In the way you let silence stay in a conversation instead of filling it. It's not that you've become passive. You've become precise, not reactive, responsive, not detached, deeply connected to what matters. You think about someone you once knew who always needed noise, podcasts, music, background TV. Silence made them restless, as if the stillness would reveal something too uncomfortable to face. You were like that once too. But now, silence feels like a kind of arrival. The moment when the water clears and you finally see the shape of things beneath. So you carry that into the rest of your day, into the walk to wherever you're going, into the way you tie your shoes or hold your bag or respond to an email. Not sluggish, not hesitant, just steady. Steadiness is underrated. It doesn't sparkle, it doesn't trend, but it endures. You recall a story from Epictetus's life. A student asked him how to live well. Epictetus didn't give a grand philosophy. He simply said, pay attention, be consistent, endure. That's it, and that's what you're doing moment by moment. You're learning that rushing doesn't make the day go better, it just makes you less available for it. You don't need to prove anything with your pace. You've stopped running for the sake of motion. Now, when you move, it's because you mean to. The crosswalk light turns green. You step forward, not urgently, not dramatically, just on time. Your time, and the world continues on, faster than you, louder than you, but you've found a rhythm that makes sense. One that doesn't ask you to burn out to belong. You're not behind, you're in tune. And sometimes that's the strongest place to be. It happens during the waiting, at the doctor's office, on hold with customer service, in a slow line at the grocery store. These are the forgotten places, the in-between moments. You used to hate them, tap your foot, check your phone, fill the void. But now something's changed. You've begun to see these pauses differently. Not as empty space, but as invitations. The Stoics called it apatheia, a state of equilibrium. Not indifference, but serenity in the midst of delay. And nowhere is that more tested than when you have nothing to do but wait. You sit in that chair or stand in that line, and instead of feeding impatience, you turn inward. Not to overthink, not to spiral, just to observe. The rise and fall of breath, the flicker of light on the floor, the small, unseen choreography of being alive. You start to realize something. Most of the discomfort in waiting doesn't come from the delay. It comes from the belief that you shouldn't be delayed. That life should be faster. That time should bend around you. But when you drop that expectation, waiting becomes neutral and sometimes even beautiful. There's a story of Marcus Aurelius during a long military campaign. Trapped in a remote, frozen outpost plagued by illness and tedium, he wrote, "Time is a river of passing events, a rushing torrent. No sooner is a thing seen than it is carried away." Even in boredom, even in exhaustion, he chose to notice the moment flowing through his hands. You're doing the same now. You used to rush because you thought life was in the next thing, the next answer, the next activity. But now you know life is what happens when nothing is happening, and it makes sense. The fast moments are too loud to listen. The slow ones whisper truths, like how your mind calms down when you stop feeding it stimulation. Like how not checking your phone during a delay opens space to notice someone else's kindness, or your own. You smile as you think of all the times you tried to escape this feeling, called it boredom, treated it like a problem, but boredom isn't a failure, it's a clearing, a field where thoughts return home. That's why the ancients walked so much. Seneca wandered his villa gardens. Marcus wrote standing by his window, because stillness invites reflection, and reflection is where wisdom grows. Today, instead of resenting the wait, you lean into it. You stand in line, and instead of checking out, you check in. How does your body feel? What are you carrying physically and emotionally? What are you clinging to that you could just maybe lay down? These aren't dramatic moments. You won't remember this line, but it's here that something inside you realigns. A small breath, a release of tension in the jaw, a softening. You become a little less reactive, a little more open. And that's the gift of waiting when done with presence. It stretches you like time itself into something wider, less urgent, more whole. Not every gap must be filled. Not every silence needs music. Not every pause is a problem. Sometimes the soul catches up in the quiet. You think back to earlier days when stillness was unbearable. You'd fill every second, texting, scrolling, fidgeting. You weren't wrong for doing it. You were just afraid of meeting yourself. But now you know you're not so frightening. You know you can sit beside yourself without needing to fix or distract. You're learning the art of becoming a companion to your own mind. And that may be one of the quietest, strongest forms of freedom there is. So tonight, as you lie here, the stillness of the moment doesn't scare you. It soothes you. No rush. No reason to reach for something else. You're not missing out. You're finally arriving. There's a certain peace that comes from doing the same thing again and again. Washing the dishes, folding laundry, sweeping the floor. You used to dread these repetitions, seeing them as interruptions, something to get through so you could get back to real life. But lately, you've started to wonder, what if this is real life? You find yourself moving slower now, not because you're tired, but because you're finally paying attention. You feel the warm water on your hands. You fold the fabric with care. You sweep in quiet arcs, noticing how each motion creates order from the soft chaos of dust. There's something meditative about it, something ancient. The Stoics called it virtus, a kind of excellence in conduct, not reserved for grand gestures, but for ordinary moments done with presence. And this is the paradox. The more ordinary the task, the more sacred it becomes when done slowly. You recall a story about Cleans, the Stoic philosopher who once carried water for wages. While others lectured in halls, he hauled buckets. People mocked him for it, called him lowly. But he just kept walking slowly, steadily, earning his keep with humility and discipline. He believed no task was beneath him, no moment too small for attention. You think of that now as you move through your routine. You're not just completing chores, you're shaping your character. Each repetition a quiet declaration: I am here, I am present. I will do this well not because it is impressive but because it is mine. And isn't that what so much of life is? A series of repetitions, meals cooked, beds made, doors opened and closed. The difference isn't in the task, it's in the attention you bring to it. Slowness doesn't make these things take longer, it makes them mean something. And that meaning, it's grounding. You're no longer chasing significance in distant accomplishments. You're planting it right here in the fabric of the day. You begin to see, discipline and gentleness are not opposites, they're partners. When you sweep with care, you're not just cleaning the floor, you're tending the part of yourself that seeks order, calm, simplicity. There's dignity in that. You don't need an audience. You don't need a reward. You need only the intention to be here now, fully, calmly. And maybe you chuckle softly, remembering how once you'd rush through these tasks while imagining bigger things, more exciting things. But now, in this slow folding and this careful washing, you feel the quiet truth. There is nothing more real than this. The mind softens. The breath deepens. There's no need to impress. No one to perform for, just the joy of movement. The discipline of rhythm. The steadiness of showing up even when no one sees it. You're not wasting time. You're dwelling in it. And that changes everything. Even now, lying in bed, you realize how much of the day was shaped by these slow rituals. Not flashy, not noteworthy, but stabilizing. Like the way you brushed your teeth with both hands on the sink, not rushing. Or the moment you paused while folding towels to enjoy the clean scent. Or when you looked out the window and saw nothing special and smiled anyway. This is where the Stoic path leads, not into spectacle but into presence. Into strength so quiet it becomes your foundation. You no longer need life to be remarkable every moment. You need it to be yours. And tonight, that's exactly what it is. So rest easy. The world will spin. The laundry will pile. The dishes will return. And you, steady, slow, awake, will meet them all again like an old friend. There's a storm tonight, but not outside. It's inside you. You feel it in the restless thoughts, the sudden weight in the chest, the questions that arrive uninvited, asking you to account for your life when all you wanted was to sleep. Why did I say that? What if it goes wrong? Am I doing enough? You lie there, staring at the ceiling, trying to outthink the spinning. But slowness, you've learned, isn't about stopping thought. It's about moving through it like mist, not thunder. The Stoics faced these nights too. Marcus Aurelius wrote about waking with anxiety and reminding himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." But he didn't banish his worry with force. He met it gently. He reasoned with it like a friend sitting beside an overwhelmed companion. You try that now. You don't resist the storm, you sit with it. And slowly something shifts. You realize the questions aren't the problem, the pace is. When you rush through fear, it grows sharper. When you slow down, it softens. It speaks differently. Less like accusation, more like a child afraid of the dark. So you listen. You ask, what am I really afraid of? And a quiet answer comes, not dramatic but real. You're afraid of uncertainty, of doing it wrong, of not being enough. You nod, that's honest. But here's the Stoic truth. Uncertainty is your constant companion. The only thing you control is how you meet it. And tonight, you choose to meet it with stillness. You breathe slower. You name what you feel without judgment, tension, worry, longing. You accept that this moment doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be held. That's a lesson few are taught. How to hold discomfort without fleeing. How to let the storm pass without calling it a crisis. How to say, yes, this is hard and I remain. You think of a philosopher on a ship during a violent sea. Everyone else is screaming, vomiting, praying. He grips the side calm, not because he likes the storm, but because he understands. Panic does not prevent the wave. He cannot stop the motion, but he can choose his posture, and that's what you do now. Not to force yourself calm, but to lean into slowness as the antidote to chaos. You turn your attention inward gently. You stop trying to answer every thought. You let them pass, like birds overhead, like waves that rise and fall without needing to be named. One by one, the inner noise begins to soften, not disappear, but lose its grip, because worry thrives in urgency. It can't breathe in slow air. You feel your breath again. The steady rhythm. You count it not as a distraction, but as a ceremony. Inhale, 1. Exhale, 2. You're not erasing the fear. You're making room for it. And in that room, something surprising grows, compassion for yourself. For this tired, questioning version of you, for all the versions that didn't know better, that tried, that rushed, that doubted, that stayed up on nights like this. And suddenly you're not in battle anymore. You're in presence. You remember. The goal isn't to never feel shaken. It's to remain anchored when you do. Slowness is your anchor now, not in action, but inner pace. You let your thoughts move at the speed of breath, not panic. You stop demanding certainty and start trusting that you'll meet whatever comes. You've done it before. You're doing it now. And tomorrow, when the sun returns, when the world wakes again with its noise and tasks, you'll remember this night. Not as one you got through, but as one where you practiced peace under pressure. That's stoicism too, not just in calm mornings, but in restless midnights, in unspoken fears, in the quiet choosing of steadiness when every part of you feels unsteady. So rest now. Let the storm drift. Let the worry fade. Let the breath be enough. You are not broken. You are in process. And the process is beautiful. You hear someone speak quickly, sharp words, rushed conclusions, a tone filled with urgency. Maybe they're telling a story. Maybe they're making a point. but something in their energy feels like a wave crashing before it finds the shore. You nod. You listen, but inside you remain still. That's new, because once you would have matched their speed, rushed to answer, tried to keep up, but now you know something they haven't discovered yet. Not everything demands your acceleration. The world moves fast, but you don't have to. The Stoics would say, live according to nature. And nature, as you've come to notice, is not in a hurry. Trees don't grow faster because someone's watching. Rivers don't panic when the current slows. The moon waxes and wanes on its own time. You are nature, too, and there's dignity in choosing your own rhythm. You once believed that slowness was a sign of falling behind, that being deliberate meant you weren't keeping up. But now, you see that slowness, intentional slowness, is actually a sign of mastery. You watch the way experienced chefs move in a kitchen, not frantic, not wasteful, just efficient, grounded calm. You watch a skilled writer pause between sentences, staring into space, letting the idea ripen before capturing it. You watch a wise friend pause before responding, not because they don't know what to say, but because they know the cost of careless words. You're learning that, too, slowness is not the absence of progress. It's precision. It's the surgeon's hand, the craftsman's patience, the philosopher's pause before answering. And more than that, it's the sign that you are no longer afraid of space. You don't need to fill every second with noise. You don't need to prove your worth with speed. You are enough, even when you're silent. That's what Stoicism points you toward, not cold detachment, but a kind of dignified calm that grows stronger in spaciousness. It reminds you of a line from Epictetus, paraphrased from memory. If someone were to hand you a cup of water, would you gulp it down all at once, or sip it thoughtfully with gratitude? And life is no different. Each hour, each interaction, each moment, it's not something to devour, it's something to taste. You begin to approach your day this way. You don't rush into conversations. You take a breath before meetings. You walk a little slower, not to delay, but to feel your footsteps. You pause mid-sentence and allow silence to hold the space. And you notice something beautiful. Others begin to match your pace. Not always, not everyone. But sometimes your slowness becomes permission for them to slow down too. You create space and people feel safe in it. You become the one who steadies the room, not with authority, but with presence. That's influence of the rarest kind. Because most people race because they think they'll lose something if they don't. Time, opportunity, respect. But you're discovering a different truth. You lose more when you rush. You lose awareness. You lose nuance. You lose connection. And none of that is worth shaving a few seconds off the day. So tonight, as you lie here, you carry a new kind of confidence. Not the loud kind, not the kind that needs to be seen, but the kind that lives in your chest like a warm coal. Quiet, steady, ready. You trust your own timing. You don't need to rush answers or healing or understanding. You don't need to catch up. You need only to arrive fully wherever you are. And tonight you have, right here, still, slow, strong. You remember an old version of yourself always searching for improvement, for success, for clarity. Even peace became a goal to be optimized. You read books faster. You stacked habits. You meditated to get somewhere. And then one day you paused, really paused, and it struck you. Even rest had become a race. It wasn't peace you were chasing. It was control. That realization didn't come like thunder. It came like dew. Quiet, barely visible, but it soaked through everything. So you began to question, what if I stopped trying to get somewhere better and just let myself be here, fully, kindly, without conditions? That was the beginning of something new. A slowness not of movement but of expectation. The Stoics often warned against urgency of the soul. They didn't say don't act. They said, don't be in a hurry to live someone else's life. Don't let ambition become a substitute for presence. Don't mistake motion for meaning. You've started to see how much of your past striving was shaped by an invisible anxiety. If I don't move, I'll be left behind. If I don't grow, I'll become irrelevant. If I don't improve, I'm not enough yet. But now you're learning that growth doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes it looks like roots, invisible, still, deepening beneath the surface. Sometimes it looks like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like doing less, but doing it with your whole heart. You remember today's quiet victory. You resisted the urge to overschedule. You left space. You didn't fill it, and nothing broke. The world kept spinning, and your heart beat a little softer. That's real change. You once thought becoming better meant becoming more productive, more disciplined, more insightful. Now you see that becoming better might mean becoming gentler. It might mean letting go of the self-improvement treadmill and stepping into actual self-acceptance. Not complacency, not passivity, but a calm, enduring awareness. This moment doesn't need to be improved. It needs to be inhabited. There's a line you remembered, not written, just felt. Peace isn't at the end of effort. It's at the end of striving. And the paradox is, once you stop striving to be enough, you become more capable of acting wisely, generously, clearly. Because your energy is no longer bound in proving. It's free for living. You think of Seneca writing in the final years of his life, already wealthy and respected, still wrestling with how to live simply. He didn't stop asking questions, but he stopped needing to impress with his answers. That's the shift. From performance to practice, from seeking to settling. You're not done growing, but you're done rushing it. You're not done reflecting, but you're done judging what arises. And so you lie here, soft beneath the weight of this new knowing. You are allowed to rest and still be worthy. You are allowed to pause and still be on your path. You are allowed to not know and still trust what unfolds. There's a freedom in that which the world rarely praises. But you don't need praise. You need peace, and you're learning how to give it to yourself. So let the striving fall away for now. Let the what's next loosen its grip. Let yourself float in this stillness not as a tactic but as a truth. You've come far. And tonight you don't have to go any farther. You get to just be, right here. There's a quiet, sacred weight to endings, not heavy like regret, heavy like a blanket, like dusk settling over the day. It's not sorrow, it's fullness. The kind that doesn't need to speak loudly to be felt. Tonight you feel that weight, not because something is ending, but because you are letting something end. You lie here softer than before. You're not holding everything so tightly. And in the loosened grip, there is room for something the Stoics cherished deeply: release. They didn't speak of endings with fear. They spoke of completion. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, you may not wake again. So end the day with dignity. Not panic, not urgency, but with honor for what's past. You feel that now. Today was not perfect. Maybe you were distracted. Maybe you forgot the quiet lessons. Maybe you moved too fast once or twice. But that's all right. Slowness isn't a performance, it's a returning. And every time you return, it counts. Tonight you remember that you've practiced something rare. Not grand gestures, not achievements, but presence, pace, patience. You've walked slowly through your thoughts. You've met restlessness without running. You've allowed moments to unfold rather than rushing through them. And in doing that, you've begun to rewire the very rhythm of your life. Not all at once, not dramatically, but breath by breath, choice by choice. Even now you feel it, your body readying for sleep, not with the exhaustion of collapse, but with the trust of surrender. You don't have to solve anything tonight. You don't have to fix or improve. You've already done the work. You slowed down. You paid attention. You lived inside your own skin without fleeing it. That's enough. The Stoics believed in returning each day to the present moment, not because it was flashy, but because it was true. And truth, when met gently, always sets you free. So let it be enough. Let the to-do list wait. Let tomorrow arrive in its own time. Tonight, you are where you need to be. And as your breath slows, you begin to feel the world grow quiet around you. Like it too is settling. Like it's matching your pace. The hum of night. The softness of still sheets, the faint whisper of your own thoughts letting go. And in this last space there's no need for conclusions, only a gentle landing, only silence, honest, warm, and whole. You've made it through, and you did it with grace. Now, let go. Let the day fall behind you like a coat shrugged from your shoulders. Let the sky darken without needing to light another candle. Let your body carry you the final few inches into sleep. like a boat drifting from the shore. Let the breath carry you slow and steady home. You are safe now. You are enough now. You can rest now. And as everything begins to dissolve into the stillness of this moment, there's nothing left for you to do. No more questions to answer. No more worries to carry. No more proving, pushing, reaching. Just breath and presence and the quiet, unspoken miracle of being alive right now. Let the thoughts soften like footprints in sand, slowly washed away by the gentle tide of sleep. Let the pace of the day melt into the rhythm of your chest, steady, slow, forgiving. If your mind stirs again, that's all right. Just return to the breath. The body knows how to rest. You don't have to force it. You only need to stop interrupting it. Tonight, your job is not to figure anything out. It's to feel yourself settle. To remember that even when the world is fast, you are allowed to be slow. Even when the path is unclear, you are allowed to pause. Even when nothing is certain, you are allowed to be at peace. You've come so far, and for now, that's enough. Let the quiet hold you. Let the darkness comfort you. Let sleep, gentle and silent, come when it's ready and carry you into the kind of rest that only slowness can teach. You are home.